much for joining us for Love Your Local, an effort to explore the Carolinas in hopes of inspiring folks to connect with the places, spaces, and people that make our area so special. I'm Vanessa Rufus, and I'm taking my camera on the road as I meet with folks that make up the beautiful tapestry of the Carolinas to find out why our local community is one to love. Today, I'm heading to Lake Lure to speak with Mark and Genevieve Helms with Lake Lure Adventure Company, a family-owned water recreation business that's been connecting folks with the picturesque and soul-restoring views of the mountain-flanked lifeblood of this town. What makes Lake Lure so special? What made you move to Lake Lure 25 years ago?
Yeah, well, I adore being surrounded by all of the natural beauty that is here. You can always just lift your eyes and take in the mountains, the fresh air. It's very lush looking.
It's kind of small town. It's extremely family friendly, especially after Helene. I want to say that when you walk into the grocery store, you probably know half the people by name. And we wave at everybody on the roads, and it's just really community oriented, where you know a large percentage of the people that you live with.
Really just the connection to the outdoors. And it's not, I guess Lake Lure's not really advertised for that. You know, it's mostly about the lake, and a lot of people are nostalgic about Dirty Dancing being filmed here, the Chimney Rock Park. But it's more a feeling, I would say. There are trails around, of course, but it's not as intentional as, say, like the Whitewater Center in Charlotte or the Adventure Center in Asheville.
We call it Welcome to Jurassic Park because it just seems like it's such a different place than most places in the country. You've just got pristine waters right next to some of the oldest mountains in the world.
The concept of, you know, easy, an easy living type of feel, not rushing through things. I feel like, you know, for folks who might come out to Lake Lure Adventure Company and maybe want like a day out on the water or an experience, that seems to be at the heart of maybe like what you're trying to share with folks. I guess, could you talk about what you hope people come away with after spending a day with y'all and spending a day on the lake?
For sure. One of our ski boat drivers and instructors used to come in for fuel to refuel, and he'd say, "Oh, I don't need fuel, Mark. This boat runs on dreams," or whatever. And that's kind of what we have wanted to impart, is just that the focus be on making memories and experiences and people over money, and that has absolutely carried us, you know, to great success. When folks come to enjoy the lake and they come to the Lake Lure Adventure Company, it's not just getting on a boat and going, you know, on a lake trip. It's an experience. My husband and I have longtime employees that are close like family, and it's just sort of an extension of that to the customer. And it makes them feel immediately comfortable, maybe a little bit more adventurous than they normally are in their home environment. And more oftentimes than not, those families wind up having homes here and spending time here and really embracing that part of the culture. It's just like a big extended network of family, extended family.
We rent 2 different sizes of pontoons that you can get out on the lake yourself and drive. And you can explore for half days, all days, and swim and fish and anchor up or go to restaurants and things. We also offer we call them ski trips, but we teach wakeboarding, skiing, wake surfing. We also pull tubes with them. They come with drivers, fuel, and any equipment you want. And then we also deliver kayaks and stand-up paddle boards and things like that to rental houses.
What is it like to have the lake so close? How does that impact your spirit, if you will?
That's a good one. It's just kind of happiness. What I'm looking at back here, I'm sure you'll show on the camera, but it just feels like you're in a state park with anything from hiking. You can paddle for miles. You can boat anywhere you want over here, and it's wonderful.
I mean, the sun is hitting you. You're sitting in the back seat. It's like concierge boating at its best. You can choose to do activities. You don't have to, and then it's a very relaxing feeling. So if I had to embody that feeling, it would just be like warmth and relaxation. I don't have a whole lot of words for it, but that's because it's very close to my heart.
These days, the family is back to taking folks out on the water, but getting here was a hard-fought journey. How does it feel now, knowing the lake's open?
Victorious.
Yeah. When we return, the impacts of Hurricane Helene on the main attraction for the town of Lake Lure, the lake itself, and the triumphant return that reinforced just how much the Helms family treasures their neighbors. Boating is back on Lake Lure, but it took a 20-month break. That was heartbreaking for folks who call the town of Lake Lure home and those who make their living on the water. In September of 2024, Hurricane Helene devastated the area, filling the lake with silt, debris, and storm damage. A really tough chapter for y'all, which you've explained a little bit before we started rolling here, was the chapter of Helene. Tell me how that's been going through that and then now coming out the other end. The lake's finally open. I mean, this has been a real journey.
Yeah, it was devastating in not only the way that it affected our business and other people's businesses and homes, but our daily lives were interrupted, and it was a period of time before we even knew whether or not it was going to recover. On the other side of that is the community, not just business owners, but residents and friends really came together to provide stability for one another. There were lots of ups and downs, and I really never saw anyone become agitated to the point of aggression, which a lot of times when there's these types of catastrophic events in places, people tend to butt heads, and especially when you're being controlled, because we had, everyone from the New York Police Department and Fire Department here telling us what to do and where to go and checking our IDs and that sort of thing. It was copacetic, and it gave, nobody said, I quit, I'm out. Everybody just came together with strength and resilience, and what you couldn't do for yourself, someone else did for us, and we reciprocated that. It established this unlimited positive rapport with the people that we went through the storm together with. Yeah.
It was good and bad. It was bad for business. It was pretty rough on this town for a good year and a half. But it really brought the community together. There's a place downtown named Lourdes Market that fed people for free for months. There were people that came into this town and from this town that brought in fuel, food, water. It really did kind of give it even a deeper sense of community.
I mean, you shared some really amazing stories of folks who just did so much for their neighbors without asking anything in return. You had a handful of those stories just within this community here. Can you elaborate on those a little bit?
Sure. Our good friends Paul and Kara Brock at Lord Market, their manager was living here. Paul and Kara were stuck up on the mountain, had to get airlifted out. Their kitchen manager went to the restaurant because she could walk there, and she cooked all the food that was in the coolers for the community. And then they continued that process for the next month or month and a half, and then they were just using their own resources to provide for the community. I didn't pay for or have to think about a meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner for an entire month. Beyond that, there were still resources to where we didn't have to, but by that point, Ingalls had reopened and we could start, providing for ourselves. There is a family who has come to the Adventure Company year after year, started their kids on skis, and now they've graduated to having careers of their own and bringing their family back here, their family home. When initially Ingalls closed and there wasn't any access to food beyond what we had in our fridge and freezer, because mind you, we were out of power and water for 3 weeks, and sewer. They just said, please go to our home. Here's the code. Let yourself in. Take the cash from our safe, because Ingalls, when they did reopen, was only accepting cash. That's just one example of how much trust and love and respect the community has for one another.
Did it teach you anything about just how crucial human connection is?
Oh, yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that is part of the reason why we chose to stay here and raise our family here. This was way before, the work from home, although that had always appealed to me. I feel like where things are so accessible and constantly available, food, everything, you become sort of reclusive, and just being able to step out whenever, or having to step out to get things, you have to have these interactions with people along the way, whatever it is, and I liked that a lot for our kids, to be able to speak freely to adults, strangers, and in the storm, it was just more of that, We left each other notes because there was no connectivity or, phone service, Wi-Fi, nothing. And we couldn't all be in the same place at the same time. So we would just slap a note on the door and walk into town. And it was comforting to know that on the other side of that, they were going to be received, my husband and children and the few people who were staying with us who were out of homes, with people that I could trust, even if I didn't know them, personally. So,
yeah. We've talked about, 20 months since Helene. Mm-hmm. The lake was closed for, pretty much this whole time.
Yeah.
It only recently opened.
Very desolate, Dust Bowl, very stark looking. It was really difficult going through the seasons, and because it was so different, the landscape has changed.
For sure, the people that make their living in this town, it's including us, it was tough to see the lake down 30 feet for a year and want everything to hurry up, but at the same time want everything to be done properly and to be patient, because we were getting a lot of help from the state and the federal government, and everybody that I saw, they were giving us everything they could. And it was just it was a really large undertaking.
Yeah. I mean, I think about not only the community effort of trying to get the lake back together, but you explained how you and your family also had to put all of this back together. You were telling me about some of the disarray with the boats,
Yes.
you know, like the docks that had to be replaced.
Yeah, so during Helene, the lake rose, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 feet in just a few hours. So where we're sitting right here, the water was 6 feet over the deck. These two boats raised up and lifted this roof off the deck. It flipped over several boats over here. It flooded both shacks with everything in it. Really, you know, the way everything that we did business with, except for most of the boats, was either ruined or gone.
Our shack was underwater here. This is Helene's water line, so above my head for sure. And yeah, anything that you see that's electronic in the shack, anything, you know, our merchandise, everything that we sell goods-wise was underwater and had to be replaced.
How does it feel now, knowing the lake's open?
Victorious.
Yeah.
The Army Corps of Engineers and our town council really stood up for us and did so much work in a short period of time, relatively. I mean, 20 months isn't short, but the scope of work was huge. So huge, as a matter of fact, the Army Corps was excited to be part of the project because they had never done anything reparative in this scope before. The amount of debris and silt that they took out of the lake would fill the Charlotte Panthers stadium 4 times. Yeah, and that happened over, I mean, essentially 15 months. And then they dealt with the shoreline after that, but that was more localized crews. Yeah, I think we saw resilience, we saw effort, we saw connection and community, and that just made us want to put our roots down here even deeper.
So safe to say you would choose Lake Lure all over again, even knowing what you went through, how traumatic that was.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah. I mean, there was a whole summer that we weren't on the lake renting boats. The amount of time that I got to spend with my kids and my husband outside of work, which if anybody's going to put anything aside in life to enjoy it more, it should be work. We happen to just really love what we do so much, you know, and it's fortunate that it's seasonal because there are 3 months that we can kind of do other things. That has its challenges too. But yeah, absolutely. You know, it was spend your savings, apply for grants, borrow money, be awarded some grants, and just a lot of hard physical labor, as well as, you know, things that are creative and more like projects that needed managing. Not that I was, you know, hammering nails, but my husband was, and I definitely would do it over again. And it was, we're ready for everything to be rolling again, and it's just gonna take a little time, but we still would have proceeded to save what we had built.
When we come back, with the lake back open for business, we'll talk about how the Helms family hopes the magic of their community touches folks who come here to visit. There's no doubt lake life is a huge draw for so many different reasons. You've got the slower pace, vitamin D, and the excuse to disconnect. The Helms family says they hope these are just some of the vibes folks take home with them after a visit. You were telling me you've had the vantage point of having lived in different places
Sure.
around the country before coming to Lake Lure. For folks who aren't from here or haven't been here, how would you impart maybe just a slice of Lake Lure mindset, you know, thinking about what you've experienced living elsewhere? If you could give folks a little bit of, here's a breath of fresh air, Lake Lure for you.
Right. From a perspective of living in more populated areas, and there are a lot of people who live here who are not from here. You know, that is a large part of our community. But there's just a softness, and Lake Lure in particular is a really special place because everybody is sort of operating on a less hurried schedule. Not that we don't do big things, but it's okay to just take your time, do it right, and not rush the process. So that's, I guess, what I would say.
I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We joke that no matter what year it is, we've tried to raise our kids in the 80s. And I feel like this is a good place where, it feels normal to leave the phone at the house and get out on a canoe or go learn how to water ski or take a boat out and just spend a half day just swimming with the family. And it's kind of like stepping back in time a little bit to a simpler time, whether that's time or just where you are, just a simpler time.
Yeah. We could all use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure we could.
Yeah.
It takes time to establish a business, as most people know. A few years is usually the turnaround time that economists say that you need to establish and become fiscally solvent running a business. There have been so many different chapters of our lives and our time here, and there's always a part of the community where it's a puzzle piece that just fits in. But you have to have a perspective where you are ready to receive that, as well as plugging in and reciprocating. So, that's something that I would say is it takes time, and it's totally worth it because of how anchored we feel right now, especially after, such a crazy event.
Small town charm, beautiful backdrops, and friendly faces. It was definitely easy to get lured into the lake life on Lake Lure, and also appreciate the folks that make the community what it is. Until next time, be sure to explore all of the special gems in your area and connect to the folks there, and you just might end up loving your local even more.